I'd like to invite you to come and sit in silence with me this morning again. And as we do in this Passiontide, let us reflect on suffering and let us make sense of suffering, also encapsulating it and wrapping it in love. It sounds rather counterintuitive, but by wrapping our suffering in love, we learn that our heart is bigger than our suffering, that the safe space created by love exceeds our sufferings. This morning we will also be reflecting on a piece of scripture, namely Colossians 1 verse 24. But let us start by just sitting in a comfortable position again, with our bodies signifying openness, symbolizing the intentionality that we have to open ourselves up to the presence of God, experiencing His love as we do. Sit in a comfortable position, perhaps with your the palms of your hands open, not crossing your legs, not folding your arms. And let's just become aware of being present here. Perhaps you can also become aware of your breathing now. Just become aware of your breathing. Now let us ground ourselves in the ineffable love of God again, by becoming aware of our feet on the ground. And as you become aware of your feet on the ground, perhaps you might experience a certain stability, firmness. Open yourself up to this. And as you do, as you open yourself up like this, and you become rooted in the love of Christ, you may actually feel the love of Christ flowing into yourself, into your body. Imagine the love of Christ in which you're rooted, in which you're grounded, extending from that source of abundance, flowing through your legs and manifesting in your core. Perhaps you can feel a certain calmness in your core as you become aware of the indwelling love, of the flow of love of God, so that you can have a physical experience of love. Now become aware of your breathing. Breathing deeply. And once again, let every breath that you take become a celebration being you, of being a beloved of God, of being alive in that. And as you breathe in like that, you become aware of being a beloved of God. Every breath celebrating that. Perhaps you can still feel a certain warmth in your chest and identify that as the love of God. And as you become aware, physically aware of love, of the divine love of God, allow yourself to open up to that as you've become immersed in love. As you fill yourself with love. Perhaps you can sense the tingling in your hands, in your feet, reminding you of being filled with love, of becoming love. Now that we have confirmed ourselves as image bearers of the source of love, of God as the source of love, let us read from Colossians 1, verse 24. Now I rejoice in what I am suffering for you, and I fill up in my flesh what is still lacking in regard to Christ's afflictions, for the sake of his body, which is the church. Let us sit with that as we become aware of suffering in our own lives. Perhaps you can identify just one aspect of suffering in your own life now. And as you name it, perhaps you can even visualize that. And now, once you visualize that, perhaps had a very physical experience of the suffering, return to the love that you experienced. Return to the warmth, the calmness, the reassurance, the very presence of the love with which you filled yourself. If you can imagine being enfolded by love, feel what it feels like to be enfolded like that. And now, extend that love to also enfold your suffering. Imagine a blanket of love with which you can wrap your suffering. And as you wrap your suffering like that, perhaps you can experience that love is a greater space than the suffering. And now let us join and sit together. Sit together in each other's silence as we share suffering, but also as we share an ineffable experience of love which creates a space of grace around our suffering. And as we breathe in, let every breath remind us of being enfolded by love, of being beloved to God, and of our suffering being wrapped in that same love, which now creates a space where we can breathe again. Let us just sit in each other's silence, sharing this for a few minutes. Thank you. And now that we've identified, acknowledged our suffering, experienced that, but also wrapped that in the love of God, let us be reminded how our suffering and the suffering of Christ is joining to become one, and allow that to give Passiontide this year a renewed significance in your life. Thank you.